Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. It is G here. I want to talk about how the artistic expression in Sinners of Annie is actually a bit more negative, negative in comparison to Thomas J. Price's sculptures of Black women that had everybody up in their feelings. Guys, subscribe to my channel and let's have a little chat.
The thing about private women, they can post whatever they like on social media and still live a life you know nothing about.
I know I'm a little late on this commentary. I know I'm a little late. I saw Sinners later probably than everyone else because I'm in another country. And I have actually seen in person some of the other sculptures of Black women by Thomas J. Price. I actually saw the one in Rotterdam and I saw the one in Florence. So the only one I have not seen is the one that's in Times Square in New York because I'm not in the States. And I probably won't be going back anytime soon. A lot of Black women really had a visceral reaction to the sculpture that is featured in the United States in Times Square. And, you know, I've even had some commentary. I'm in some Black women's groups and like, they were also really upset. And I didn't do that for me. But what I did not hear a lot of commentary about is Annie in Sinners. Now, I know some people had some different opinions of her, but I feel like the way she was displayed artistically was more reflective on how Black men see Black women. And we can see this because it's a direct comparison of how Mary is depicted. And I am not talking about her spirituality. I'm not just talking about the simple lighting. The simple lighting. Now, the woman who plays Annie is a beautiful woman. She is gorgeous. Her skin is gorgeous. She glows. But none of that was really like highlighted in Sinners. She was always kind of in the dark. The way she was lit was not very flattering. And she came off as very, while she was a sexual interest, even the sex between her and Smoke was very, I don't know, backshots to me is just not romantic. So there was a whole different idea. He left because he was hurt, right? And did not really even care how he hurt her by leaving and doing whatever he was doing. Their child had passed on and he disappeared, leaving her to basically deal with her hurt, her pain, all by her own, all on her own. Whereas Stack, he left and put his woman in a better position, right? He put her in a protected position. He wanted her to also to have the best life she could have, right? And he couldn't give that to her as a Black man with a white presenting woman. So he made sure that she was able to be in a position where she was well cared for, even if it was by another man. That was not what Smoke did or gave to Annie. Or it's very reflective of how a lot of Black men treat Black women. They don't try to set them up. They don't try and be like, I might not be here, but let me make sure you're taken care of. Let me make sure that you have everything you need if I never come back, that you have everything you need. And he didn't do that. And so those, like that artistic depiction of the relationships is very telling to me and far more expressive to me of how a lot of reflections of how Black men actually see Black women, just even how they lit Mary throughout the movie was very different in how they lit Annie. And I'm making this comparison not because one person is a dark-skinned woman and one person is a light-skinned woman, but these were the two love interests in the movie. And how those love interests play out in art is actually really reflective in so many things. And I did not see a lot of Black women or people talking about how those depictions are awful and negative and how she was lit so poorly and how that made her look less beautiful than she actually is. This is a woman who actually is stunning. And instead of playing up her stunning features, they downplayed it with the way she was lit and how they put her in certain scenes. So I really thought that that was something that would have a far more visceral reaction than how we see the Thomas J. Price sculpture in Times Square. Now, I have seen the first one I saw was in Rotterdam. There is no context around these sculptures. There's not a plaque or whatever. I got off the train in Central in Rotterdam and I saw this. I don't know if it's like 12, 20 feet. I don't know how big it is. This larger than life statue of a Black woman just existing in her skin. And when I saw that image or when I saw that sculpture, I was like, oh, I can dig Rotterdam. The thing that stood out to me about this sculpture and why I felt that it was so welcoming was because it was just a Black woman taking up space. She was taking up space as herself. She was not an aspirational image, and she was just her, you know? And I was like, okay, they dig Black people here, or they accept Black people as Black people here. And that is what I saw. And that is how I felt welcomed, right, as a Black woman. And I was surprised by how many Black women really did not like the sculpture in Times Square. And what it said to me was how we as Black women don't want certain types of other Black women to represent us and to take up space. And that is what I saw. That is what came off to me, even in the private discussions that I was having or I was witnessing other Black women as they were expressing why they didn't like this sculpture. Why was she dressed like this? You know, why was she in that stance? What was her attitude? Why did she look angry? And I was just like, wow. And we are judging ourselves and other women through the lens that doesn't belong to us. We don't want certain Black women to take up space. That is what I interpreted from so many people's like negative response and reactions. And I'm going to tell you right now, I know Black women, my kids, I know Black women who look like this and who this made them feel seen and made them feel confident and made them understand that, yeah, I can take up space just as I am. We don't all have to be aspirational. We don't always have to be the goddess. We don't always have to show up for people in the acceptable way. And who is that acceptable way for? So for me, when I was like listening and seeing some people's reaction, I was like, wow, maybe I missed a lot of the commentary related to Sinners, and how Annie was depicted. And I don't mean as, again, I just mean the lighting, how they did not play up her beauty and how, and this has nothing to do with hairstyle. All of her hairstyles were cool, but it was just the lighting. It was the angles. It was so many different things that they just missed an opportunity to highlight a beautiful woman and highlight her physical presence in comparison to everything else around her. She was probably, to me, the most beautiful woman in the movie, and that was completely missed. And I think that artistic expression by a Black man, because a Black man is who directed and put this film together, I think that artistic expression by a Black man is far more telling than Thomas J. Price's sculptures. I think that the discussion around this that we're missing as Black women is that we are judging Black women who look a certain way, who don't fit that particular beauty standard that we want to reflect us. We understand that a lot of times with Black women, that one representation that we get is what we get. It's what everyone is going to see Black women as. And we want to be seen in a certain way. We want to be finally highlighted in a certain way. And we want to be compared to the aspirational images that we see of other cultures, particularly white folks. And I think that knowing that those are aspirational images for most white people, those images are just as aspirational for white people than as they are for Black people. It's just that we don't get the same coverage, right? And so we want every image to be a certain way. But if we're going to talk about our reflection of art and how Black men are reflecting our image. If we want to critique how Black men reflect Black women in art, then I think it needs to be holistic. And I think that understanding that even in Sinners, a lot of people were like, oh, finally a dark skinned, bigger girl is a love interest. But then he still didn't play up her beauty. He still didn't do anything. We were just happy. Some people were happy, I imagine, that she was, a love interest, and she was a main love interest, and that it mattered to have her as a love interest is important for us as Black women and all like women, right? For us as Black women, Annie's representation is just as important because we don't see dark skinned, bigger girls as love interests hardly ever. And I think the missed opportunity to highlight Annie's beauty is also very reflective and more reflective of how Black men actually see Black women far more, because you could do a direct comparison of how the lighting, how the imagery, how the gracefulness of Mary was depicted. Very contrasting imagery in that film. So I don't have a problem with the Thomas J. Price because I do think that every Black woman, regardless, has the right to show up as herself, take up space as herself. And I think those images represent that. So, guys, I would love to talk to you in the comments. I know it's gone for like a week or so, maybe a little more. I was busy. I do some other work sometimes, and I was out of town. Guys, if you have not already, please subscribe to my channel, like and share my videos if you enjoy them. I really do appreciate all of the new followers. So guys, I look forward to talking to you in the comments, and ciao ciao for now.